It's Bama week.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome into Locked On LSU. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Search Locked On LSU in that search bar, hit the subscribe button, and you will get a notification as soon as the podcast drops. You are going to get up to the date information about your LSU Tigers. My name is Caroline Fenton, and I am your host, as I am every single day. And today's edition of Locked On LSU is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Let's get into it because we are just about 24 hours away from kickoff in Tuscaloosa. LSU at Alabama, which is going to be more likely than not what I think is going to be the SEC championship qualifying game. What do I mean by that? I think that the SEC West very well could be locked up tonight. Tomorrow night. What has to happen in order for that to happen? Either Alabama wins or LSU wins and Ole Miss loses either against Texas A&M on Saturday, which I think is likely, or Ole Miss loses to Georgia later on in the season. But either way, if Ole Miss has another loss on their schedule, which against Texas A&M and against Georgia could likely come in one of those next two games, the winner of this game, if LSU wins this game, they're headed to Atlanta. Now, if Alabama wins this game, then the SEC West is pretty much already locked up. So a lot is riding on this game. And it's not just SEC championship. It's Jayden Daniels winning the Heisman. I think Jayden Daniels should be the Heisman frontrunner now. And you're probably thinking, if you're not an LSU fan, if you're an Alabama fan joining us, welcome. You're probably thinking, well, what an LSU homer? No, it's not really a homer take in the slightest. It's simply the truth. The Heisman Trophy is MVP of college football. Show me a player in college football that's more important and more valuable to their football team than Jayden Daniels has been. I mean, I'll wait. Because any player in contention for the Heisman is not as valuable as Jayden Daniels is. J.J. McCarthy, he's just the quarterback on the best team in the country. Michael Penix Jr., well, he's had a rough couple of weeks the last 2 weeks against not very good opponents. So Jayden Daniels is the one quarterback in America that up until this point, I'm not going to jinx anything, knock on wood, hasn't had an off day. But he is consistently delivering for this football team. So SEC championship game, Heisman Trophy for Jayden Daniels. And I mean, chaos happens in college football, even the college football playoff. If LSU runs the table, beats Alabama, wins out, beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, there's a good argument for LSU potentially getting a bid with the CFP. So a lot is riding on this game in Tuscaloosa. A lot is riding on a win against Alabama. So how do you do that? What does LSU need to do in order to win the football game? I've said this all week long, that it's a really interesting matchup because it's elite on elite and struggling versus struggling. Elite LSU offense on elite Alabama defense. Now, we talked with Jimmy Stein of Locked On Bama, and he said he wasn't willing to call this Alabama defense elite because it's not as good compared to some of the LSU Alabama defenses of the past. And while that might be true, I think you have to compare it to the rest of college football this season. Because if you compare it to the rest of the defenses in college football this season, I would call it elite. It might not be the Alabama defense of 2011, but it's still a really, really solid defense. So I'm willing to call it elite. And then the struggling on struggling, of course, as we know, this LSU defense, it's been struggling all season long. Most notably the secondary. And the secondary will be without Greg Brooks, of course, which Brian Kelly provided an update on Greg Brooks that he's still battling, underwent a couple more procedures, but he's fighting. So love to hear that. And of course, I know that we're all sending our love and strength and prayers to Greg Brooks and his family. So of course, you're without Greg Brooks. You're without Zy Alexander. When Zy Alexander, lower body, leg, ankle, knee, foot, I'm not quite sure what it was, against Army, he's out. And then Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris are still away from the team. So you're going to be relying on true freshmen like Jeremiah Hughes and Javian Toviano, two very young and inexperienced players, Ashton Stamps as well, young and inexperienced players going up against this Alabama offense, this Alabama receiving core, which again is not the Alabama offense or Alabama receiving core of the past. Like there's no Jalen Waddle, there's no Henry Ruggs, there's no Devontae Smith, Julio Jones, like whatever NFL wide receiver that came from Alabama you want to mention or bring up here. They don't have that on this team. So it's going to be a test for this defense, but this defense has been struggling all season long against an Alabama offense that I mentioned has also been struggling. Jalen Milroe is not Tua Tagovailoa or Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts. Jalen Milroe also is young and inexperienced. Behind a young and inexperienced offensive line, Caden Proctor, Alabama's left tackle, is a true freshman, and it shows. It shows because Alabama's offensive line has given up almost more sacks than any other team in all of college football. Alabama's given up 35 sacks this season. I mean, averaging 7 a game. More than that. I can't do math on the air. Forgive me. Somebody will let me know how many that is. Thank you. I appreciate that. Needless to say, it's really good on really good and really bad on really bad. So let's focus on what LSU needs to do offensively to get the job done. And I'm going to mention the offense first because I think the offense has to win this football game. I go back to a Mailbag Wednesday that we did last week when somebody asked who has to have the best game of the year really to win this game. And I thought, well, I guess the defense does because they haven't been very good all year. Nope, it's the offense. It's Jayden Daniels. It's Malik Nabers. It's Brian Thomas. It's Logan Diggs. It's Mason Taylor. It's this offensive line protecting Jayden Daniels and creating holes in the run game against a stout Alabama defensive line. So this offense is going to have to do what it always does. You're averaging 47 points a game. You're averaging 550 total offensive yards a game. Like you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to put up some points now. You're going to have to do what you always do. You're going to have to air the football out. You're going to have to run the ball, and Jayden Daniels is going to have to be Superman. Overall, I think this LSU offense is going to have to take what the defense gives them because that's what makes this LSU offense so dangerous and so potent is its layers. It's the passing game. It's the fact that Jayden Daniels can air it out 40 or 50 yards downfield, and he's got a duo, if not trio, of receivers that are going to get open and win those 50-50 battles. It's the intermediate passing game, where if they need to dink and dunk it 5 yards, 7 yards, 3 yards here and there, they can do that. That's something that Jalen Milroe, Alabama quarterback, struggles with. He can't dink and dunk. The intermediate game, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 10, 15 yards, not explosive, but not just, a couple of yard pickups here, that he struggles with that. This Alabama offense as a whole struggles with that. If you need an example of that, go watch the second half of the Tennessee game. Go watch the Texas game. You'll see Jalen Milroe struggle with those intermediate passing situations. LSU can do the long ball, intermediate ball. They can also kill you in the run game with Logan Diggs or with Noah Cain or with Josh Williams or any of those running backs. And it's also Jayden Daniels as well. That he can escape pressure but also make plays on the run as well. I mean, we've seen it. We see it every single week. So what does the offense have to do? What they always do. I mean, be effective and efficient in the run game. Be willing to throw the long ball. Connect and win those 50-50 battles in the secondary. The wide receivers need to win those 50-50 battles. And don't turn the football over. Don't give this Alabama offense any more opportunities. More afterwards from our sponsors. Buying tickets to your favorite events can be stressful, but it really does not have to be. That's why I get my tickets at Game Time. It's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, whatever it might be, all of the events that you want to go to near you. They've got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So, true story. I actually used Game Time. Some friends and I were going to the LSU Florida game here coming up in just a couple of weeks. And I got tickets on Game Time because one, I could see exactly where our seats were going to be. I knew that it wasn't going to be an impacted view. I knew that we were going to sit in the LSU section. And the best part about it, I knew that I was getting the best price out there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, thanks for making Locked on LSU your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. College football season is here. And this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. And every single Friday, Locked On will go live at 11 a.m. Eastern on every single Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. So find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. That is 10 a.m. Central on any Locked On College YouTube channel, including right here on Locked On LSU. You will not want to miss it. Let's get back into it, because in order to beat Alabama, this LSU offense is going to have to be elite. It's going to have to be what it has been all season long. And it can't necessarily afford slow starts. It can't afford turnovers. Maybe you could afford a slower start against Arkansas. You still ended up in a fight with Arkansas all the way through the end. You could turn the ball over against Auburn, and it didn't really make much of a difference. Well, Alabama's a much better team. And Alabama can make you pay. You can't turn the ball over, and you got to take what the defense gives you. Because if the defense wants to take the run away, well, fine, make them pay in the passing game. If Alabama's going to sell out to stop Jayden Daniels, well, you're going to hand it off to Logan Diggs. This LSU offense is incredibly difficult to limit and to stop, mostly because we haven't really seen anyone do it, even against Florida State. Statistically, the worst offensive performance from LSU this season, and they still dropped 450 yards. No one's been able to do it. Now, Alabama's defense is the best defense that this LSU team has seen all season long. But I think that this LSU defense is just that good. Offense. I meant offense. LSU offense is just that good. Now, the thing that's not as fun to talk about is the LSU defense. The LSU defense. What does LSU's defense have to do to give this LSU team its best opportunity to win? I think it comes down to the guys up front for a few reasons. They're going to have to get to Jalen Milroe, because if Jalen Milroe has time in the pocket to go through his reads, to sit back and deliver a long bomb, I don't see anyone in that secondary that I trust to consistently win those 50-50 battles with Alabama's receivers. And I'll be completely honest. I don't believe that these Alabama receivers are anything close to some of the former Alabama receivers of the past. But you got Isaiah Bond, got Jermaine Burton. Like, you've got guys on Alabama's receiving core that can make plays. And I would trust an Isaiah Bond or a Jermaine Burton over a true freshman LSU DB. That's just the reality of it. They're young and inexperienced. Hey, maybe one of these young guys has the game of their freaking life. I would love that. I would adore that. I can't expect that from them. I have to put a majority of the defensive workload on this defensive front because, one, they're more equipped to do so, and those are your more talented players. your Harold Perkins, your Jordan Jeffersons, your Mason Smiths. Now, look, that got significantly more difficult losing Mekhi Wingo for the rest of the regular season. I completely understand that you lose your second leading sacker on the season. And look, I get it. Leading sacker is Harold Perkins. He's got 3 sacks in the season. It's just simply not enough. But losing Mekhi Wingo, both in what he gives your defensive line and the leadership aspect, it hurts. But this defensive line has to carry a majority of the workload. So that's the one reason why, is because I can't put it on the young secondary to win this football game or to help you win this football game. The second reason is because I think that Alabama's going to want to run the football. And you might say, well, Alabama's going to want to throw because they want to pick apart this LSU secondary. And they are going to throw the football because Alabama's offense can really only do one of two things: throw the deep ball and run it. So you might say, well, they're going to throw the deep ball all game long and pick apart this secondary. And I think they're going to try to do that. Absolutely. But what benefit does it give this Alabama offense to do what they did in the first possession of the second half against Tennessee, to score in less than a minute? Well, then you just give the ball back to Jayden Daniels. And then you just give the ball back to LSU's offense to make another insane play and find the end zone. Then you're just getting yourself into a shootout with the number 1 offense in the country. I don't think Alabama wants to find themselves in that position. I think that Alabama is going to want to hold on to the football as long as possible and run the football and run the clock out. The more Alabama runs the clock out, the fewer opportunities you give Jayden Daniels and this LSU offense to score. So I think they're going to want to run the football, and that falls on the defensive line to plug things up, to not make things easy for this Alabama run game. And I'll be completely honest with you. If I had to pick my poison, I would rather LSU's defensive front sell out to stop the run and force Jalen Milroe to throw the football. And he's going to connect on some of those long bombs. That's going to happen. Let's just prepare ourselves for that, okay? That is going to happen, that Jalen Milroe is going to throw deep balls, either it's in the end zone or to set them up in the red zone, whatever it might be. That's going to happen because they're going to beat your secondary. But if you can take the run away from Alabama, or at least limit what they want to do in the run game, then that increases the likelihood that Jalen Milroe is going to make a mistake, that he's going to throw a bad ball or even throw an interception. That if you get in his face and you're heavy at the line of scrimmage and you get some pressure on him, the likelihood for a forced fumble or a strip sack or an interception, I think, skyrockets. So I would love to double dog dare Jalen Milroe to throw the football, because if he connects, then you know what happens? You get the ball back. It's like the feeling when at least when I was watching the Ole Miss game, I was thinking, just hurry up and score so we can get the ball back and we can score too. You get in that kind of situation with Alabama, you win the football game because your offense is prepared to win in a shootout. Alabama's, on the other hand, it's not. So what the defense needs to do overall, whether it's the secondary, whether it's the front, whether it's the linebackers, whatever you want to talk about defensively, the defense just needs to make timely stops. The defense just needs to wrap up and tackle. The defense needs to try and force some turnovers and give the offense more opportunities with the football. I don't need this defense to be elite. I don't need this defense to completely take away, the long ball from Jalen Milroe, or to bully anyone, really. I don't need you to be great. I don't need you to be elite. I don't even really need you to be good. I just need you to be average. I need you to tackle. I need you to not miss tackles and give up 300 yards and miss tackles like you did against Ole Miss. I need you to try and get some pressure on Jalen Milroe, and I need you to take advantage of an Alabama offensive line that has frankly been very bad at protecting the quarterback all year long. That's all you got to do. And I know I say that's all you got to do. It's a lot easier said than done. I need this LSU defense just to get some stops, just to make timely plays. I think we saw in the second half against Missouri what we need this LSU defense to do. In the second half against Missouri, they still gave up over 200 yards of offense. They still gave up 2 touchdowns. But they got 2 sacks and a timely pick 6, and that's all that it took. That's what you need to see from the LSU defense on Saturday against Alabama. And I need you to limit the Alabama offense to just a field goal in the second half. I don't need you to do that. That'd be great. I'll take it. 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. But what I just need you to do is make enough stops. Win those battles. You don't need to win all of them. Just win some of them. And I think that could set this LSU defense up for, I don't want to say success, but it'll do enough to let the offense take care of a majority of the grunt work. But let's get into some predictions, and we'll do that coming up next after a quick word from our sponsors. Prize Picks is the most fun that I have had playing daily fantasy sports. And with the basketball season here, you can now pick a combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League at Prize Picks. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So, for example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3 points made and receptions. Plus, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy. It's one of my favorite things about Prize Picks, so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, love that they're getting in on the action now the basketball season is getting back in action. So if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player's rebooted. So Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. I have a blast with Prize Picks, and you will too. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, thanks again for making Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. Official picks for LSU Alabama. I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I have been going back and forth with my official prediction for like the last 2 weeks. Since LSU beat Army, throughout the bye week, throughout this week, when this game has been the topic of conversation across the SEC, across college football, this is the game. I do a lot of work for SiriusXM SEC Radio. I host weekly shows with SiriusXM SEC. I've gone on almost every single other conference channel talking about this game because I went on SiriusXM Big 12 talking about this game because this is what everybody wants to talk about. This is a massive game. So there's been so much talk. It's been pulling me in all sorts of different directions. So let me present to you my 2 different schools of thought and my 2 different predictions. One is my LSU fan, my purple and gold tinted glasses, and my heart pick, my emotional pick. And that is that I don't think anyone, not even Alabama, can stop this LSU offense. Because I think that Jayden Daniels is so fearless and tough and confident and capable of taking over any game he plays. That you have enough playmakers, from Malik Nabers to Brian Thomas to Logan Diggs to Mason Taylor, that if you want to take one of them away on any certain given play, that's fine. I had someone else to go to. And that Jayden Daniels has enough trust in all of those playmakers to put the ball in their hands and say, go make a play for me. Because 9 times out of 10, they do. That I have enough faith in the LSU defense, now that they've had 2 weeks to prepare, injuries or not, to learn the tendencies of this Alabama offense enough to just get in Jalen Milroe's face and disrupt him a little bit and make him do what he doesn't want to do, make him uncomfortable, force him to make decisions that he doesn't want to make, force him into throws that he wished that he could have back. And another part of this too is Alabama has yet to play a full 60-minute football game. They didn't show up until the second half against A&M, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. They got a big against Arkansas and just took their foot off the gas and let Arkansas get back in the game with them in the second half. If that happens, where Alabama doesn't show up until the second half, which I have good reason to believe that they will because they've done it in 3 of the biggest SEC games of the season, Ole Miss, A&M, and Tennessee. Well, I even have faith in this LSU offense to run up the score. If Alabama's going to sleepwalk through the first half, that's fine. We'll make you pay. Tennessee was up 20-7 against Alabama. You put LSU in that situation, they're probably up 35-10, 35-14, because LSU's defense probably gives up a few more plays. But their offense gets into the end zone significantly more if you give them that opportunity. So that's my LSU fan take. And it's like, it's not completely homer take. It's all realistic things that can happen. But let me take my purple and gold tinted glasses off. Let me maybe look at it through a more analytical lens and allow me to honestly hedge my emotions a little bit. Consider this an emotional hedge. That Bryant-Denny's a really difficult place to play in. That you've had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama, but guess what? Alabama's also had 2 weeks to prepare for you. And look, no defense on LSU's schedule has been able to limit what you want to do. In SEC play, LSU's putting up 525 yards on average. But none of those defenses even come close to what Alabama's is. This Alabama front, it scares me. This Alabama front can take the run away from you, and so much of what LSU's offense wants to do is predicated on the run. Ole Miss and Tennessee are 2 of the best running offenses in all of college football. Alabama played Tennessee 2 weeks ago, and Tennessee's leading rusher on the day was their quarterback, Joe Milton, who only ran for 59 yards. I mean, Tennessee's averaging almost 200 rushing yards a game, and Alabama limited them to 130, which isn't nothing at all. You let Logan Diggs or Jayden Daniels run free, they're gonna. But that scares me. And I also look at Ole Miss. Quinshon Judkins has put up nearly 100 rushing yards in every SEC game that he has played in this season. Alabama limited Quinshon Judkins to just 56 rushing yards on the day. Jackson Dart, who we have seen, unfortunately, firsthand, run wild. Well, Alabama was able to contain him to 6 yards on 12 carries. This is an Alabama front that has no problem taking the run away. Like I said, LSU can kill you in the passing game. They can do that. But they're going to have to make some major adjustments. If you're not able to run the football, that puts a lot more pressure on Jayden Daniels. And I'm cool with that. He's cool with that. Makes me nervous. This LSU defense makes me nervous. And look, this Alabama offense isn't great. It's not bad. Let me say that. It is not a bad offense. But it's not the team's strength in the slightest. That Alabama can win games by putting up 21 or 24 points a game. Mostly because they don't need to put up more points than that because their defense has been that good. But this is an offense that has been struggling. Whether it's turnovers or protecting the quarterback or intermediate passing game. Play calling, I think, is part of it as well. Because it's just a young and inexperienced offense from the quarterback to the offensive line to the offensive coordinator and Tommy Rees. That part of me thinks that, it doesn't matter how much this Alabama offense has struggled, that this LSU defense is worse. That I think LSU's offense is better than Alabama's defense, but Alabama's offense is better than LSU's defense. And being in an environment like that, in a game that I know that Nick Saban has been brewing his revenge since the first Saturday of November in 2022, man, it makes me not very hopeful. But look, both of those scenarios that I just laid out are both very likely. I could see either playing out. And I think the most likely scenario is probably somewhere in the middle, where LSU's offense maybe gets, what's the right word I'm looking for? Diluted a little bit. But also, on the other side, maybe the defense is able to make a couple more plays than we expected. It's probably somewhere in the middle that whoever gets the ball last wins the football game. The spread is 3.5. that shows me that Vegas thinks that this really could be a pick 'em. That 3.5 is really just the Bryant Denny benefit of the doubt. And one stat that it's not really a stat, but fact rather, is that when LSU came to Bryant Denny in 2019, I want to say they were 7.5 point dogs or 6.5 point dogs. That was 2019. That was Joe Burrow. That was Jamar Chase. That was national champion LSU team. Now, granted, that Alabama team was significantly better with Tua and that whole squad in 2019 than it is this season. But Vegas thinks that you got a fighting chance in this one, and so do I. But I think it could be 37-34. Higher scoring than Alabama's used to, lower scoring than LSU is used to, which I think kind of plays into the strengths and weaknesses of both teams. And whoever is able to get a stop at the right time, whoever is able to manipulate the clock well enough, and whoever gets the ball last wins. That's what it came down to last season. It's two really good teams, and also two teams with some pretty big weaknesses and some pretty big holes. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm optimistic. I'm also pessimistic at the same time. I'm ready for it to get here. And I also am going to be, biting my fingernails down to the nub until kickoff comes. It's all of those emotions of a massive game. And that's exactly what this is. But I will say this, as nervous, anxious, excited, pumped, terrified as I am about this game, I will say that college football is more fun when this game means something. The SEC is more fun when you got a lot on the line in LSU, Alabama. And that's exactly what we're getting this weekend. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you for making Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. If you're headed to Tuscaloosa, safe travels, enjoy it, have fun. I'll be jealous. Cheer extra loud for me. It's going to be an absolute blast. And you'll have a full breakdown of LSU, Alabama coming up on the next edition of Locked On LSU.